Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
Located on Lake Pontchartrain, Brisbee's Lakefront Restaurant and Bar offers traditional West End favorites, a scenic view, oysters, and numerous tasty options. More information is available at 504-304-4125 or brisbeesrestaurant.com. Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House has been shucking here since 1979. Located at 3117 21st Street in Metairie, Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House offers raw, fried, and grilled oysters as well as a range of Cajun and Creole dishes. Enjoy a dozen with a smile. Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.
Good evening, New Orleans, and welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we talk a lot about the New Orleans Saints, the LSU Tigers, Tulane Green Wave. Got one of my favorite guests. You always ask for him. He always delivers. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio, NFL analyst, college football analyst, and of course, draft guru extraordinaire. Mike, welcome to the show.
My pleasure.
Always good to have you.
Thank you, buddy.
Always good for you to come down. And before we get started, I always like to start off letting folks know a little bit about what you're involved in. Can we start off telling us when that draft guide is going to come out?
It'll be out late March, first couple of days of April, like we naturally get it out as quickly as we can.
Right.
But going through, the usual process of getting that out, and that's time-consuming.
Yes.
And then once free agency starts and everything you thought would
Right.
take place, now you're redoing it.
Right.
So, again, it'll be out first couple of days of April.
And the easiest way for folks to get a hold of that is how?
Saintsreport.com. They can also get it off of there, or also on MikeDetillier.com.
Right, and you're doing a lot of stuff on the airwaves. Tell the folks about it.
Oh, goodness. That's way too long.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of different deals involved with, and you turn on your radio, you can clip me somewhere along the line.
Well, let's get started. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to having you back on the program. Let's start off with the changes that the Saints made within the coaching staff. Joe Vitt, Bill Johnson, Greg McMahon, James Willis, Stan Kwan. Talk a little bit about that change. Did it surprise you? If it did, tell me why. And then, if you would, tell us where you think it came from. Was it Sean Payton making this decision? Did it come from above Sean's head? Was it a group decision? What's your thoughts?
Come on, nothing's coming above Sean's head.
There you go.
When it comes down to coaches. That's his choice. But I think he realized it's all chips in 2017. If you don't get it done here, you're coaching somewhere else in 2018. And so he knew he had to make the changes on the defensive side of the football with Bill Johnson. It just wasn't getting the development quick enough. With Joe Vitt, no development of the linebacker position at all. And special teams was a disaster until Kevin O'Day comes in. And then all of a sudden, Will Lutz hits 13 straight field goals. So all in all, no shock there. You had to make changes, and I do think there'll be more.
Right. Oh, you think there'll be more?
I think there'll be more.
You think there'll be more? What about Joe Vitt? The closest of him and Peyton, the eyes and ears of Peyton within that defensive room. Did that surprise you that he was willing to sever that relationship?
You do what you have to do when sort of your reputation's on the line.
Yes.
And I think he saw that, something was missing here. Was it the communication part? And a lot of times, and I live next to an older coach, and he tells me that's when I knew I'd lost it. My ability to communicate with a young player, I was losing it a little bit. And I see maybe that happened with Joe years ago. That maybe wasn't the case, but you're dealing in another generation of players today. And to have them understand what they have to do, not some of the time, all of the time. Because if you don't know what you're doing all the time, you're making mistakes.
How much influence do you think Dennis Allen may have had in this decision, especially with the defensive coaches? Any at all?
If it was minimal.
Right. Do you think he'll have any input into the assistant coaches that will be coming in?
That I do. I think he's always, Sean's expertise. You don't know every phase of the game when you're a head coach. You either know offense or defense. You don't know both sides. He has always let his defensive coaches have a lot of say, not only in people they bring in, personnel. And so that's part of it with Dennis Allen. I think he trusts that at least he'll have some input on those particular coaches and also eventually players that get brought in.
As far as the Peyton to Los Angeles rumors, did you buy into it? And if you did, where do you think they came from?
Well, I think it originally started from Peyton's agent himself.
I agree with
I've talked to enough players that have had agents work for them. They don't know what's going on, but I trust them. I trust my agent. He'll maximize, maybe not what I get today, but maybe tomorrow, next year, whatever. And so you can see where that was coming from. You make 2 or 3 phone calls. All you need is to have one bite. And I never believed he was going. Why would the guy sign a long-term extension in February and give his Newt Rockne speech about how much I love the city, I want to be here, everything else, and then 8-9 months later, you ready to go? My thing is, he made an interesting comment on our radio station about, I would like to see the people that are giving these rumors out when you have, it came from sources, who those sources are. I think he really wouldn't want people to say exactly who those sources are.
Right.
One of them is inside of his own building, and the other one is his agent.
Right.
And so if that's where you're going with this, be careful on who you're trying to peg out, because we know who's inside the building giving that out, and we also know his agent does a nice job of fanning the flames also. What has been 4 straight years, the exact same thing.
Right.
Again, eventually, you cry wolf long enough, something will happen.
Yes.
But I wasn't buying this.
Right. Was it, as I've said in the past, a deflection? 7-9, 7-9. You get people talking about Peyton leaving, possibly looking at greener pastures instead of focusing on what was going on or what wasn't happening on the field.
Always the deflection. But also, to an agent, he's not just worried about what happens this year. He's worried about future.
That's a great point.
So he looked beyond 2017. And the deflection took a little bit away from the reality of this football team is still poor on the defensive side, the football. Yes, they score a ton of points, but if you can't stop someone, you got difficulties. And the special teams were a disaster for at least 4 games that actually played a part or cost you a win or a loss.
Mike, you mentioned that all chips are in for this year, and I would agree with you. When you heard Breeze's end-of-the-year press conference, not the one after the game, but the one that he had with the media, he was non-committal on going forward more than 1 year, wanted to concentrate on this year. That's un-Breeze-like, number one. And I kind of feel like, again, they come back with another 7-9 record. They both are probably gone. Breeze is probably looking at greenest pastures, and Peyton is probably going to be fired. When you kind of look at that situation, do you think they kind of went hand in hand? Breeze maybe, obviously Breeze would like the security at his age of having a long-term deal, but understanding that, if we haven't turned the corner by next year, that, maybe I need to look for a contender.
All I know is what Brett Favre told me. He said, Mike, it doesn't cost you much to figure out. Man, that 1-year deals, I made $18 million, $20 million on a 1-year deal. Every year I was doing a 1-year deal. Right. That's nothing against that. I always believe, though, this tag team in New Orleans, once one goes, the tag team affair is over with. So I do believe that if Sean stays beyond 2017, Breeze is here. If he's not here, then Breeze is going somewhere else.
Is this the year they start to look for a quarterback to back him up in the draft? They've tried.
Well, didn't they do that 2 years ago?
Yeah, they failed. I mean, Garrett Grace is not the guy, obviously.
Obvious. But here's the thing where you have to make the commitment. And if you do the numbers, it works out. When you look at the starting 32 quarterbacks in the NFL, 20 of them are first-round picks. 5 of them are second-round picks. So that's 25 out of 32. Yeah. You got Russell Wilson, that was a 3rd-round pick. Dak Prescott was a 4th-round pick. Yes. Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. But those guys are out of the norm. If I do my numbers right in my head, 20 into 32 is like, 63% of the starting quarterbacks are first-round picks? Are you willing this year to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback?
With all the needs? No.
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 And I'm not willing to spend a second-round pick on it.
Not with the needs you need. You have on
because
defense.
you have way too many needs immediately on this football team on defense. And then you thought the numbers, 7 out of 32 have come from beyond the second round. Your chances of hitting on that isn't real good. Will they do that? Remains to be seen. My thing is, I play Drew Brees until the wheels come off the cart.
Right.
Then I worry about it. Then I worry about what I've got to do. I've got a competent backup in Luke McCown that I can play the 2017 season with. And I worry about 2018 and 2018. If I start thinking way ahead, who's really made that work? Who's really done that work? The Green Bay did it, but they didn't think Brett would have the length of time that he did. And they got Aaron Rodgers fall to him into the 20s. That was an anomaly to have that happen. Okay, when you look across the board, San Francisco traded for Steve Young only for one reason. Montana was getting beat up, had the back surgery, everything else.
Yes.
So they made a deal. They got him for a second-round pick. So, yeah, that's happened a couple times, but I can tell you a lot more times it never happened, and it happened when it immediately need to happen.
Critique Peyton's coaching this season. How do you think he did overall?
You got to give it exactly what the record is. It's a C grade. He's fighting for mediocrity along with 18, 19 other teams in the NFL. Offensively, the numbers tell you the story. They are still an explosive team. Yes. Now, he's always going to be impatient with the running game. And we've had those numbers to back it up when they rush the football over 30 times. They're winning over 90% of their games. A lot of times, how many times he unplugs the running game real quickly. Defensively, they've had a lot of time to rebuild this team since 2011. The best team the Saints ever had. They didn't win anything, but it was the best team. You've had a lot of time. One signature draft, 2016.
Right.
Nothing else.
That's right.
People say, what about 2015? Well, what about it? Nothing there that tells you they hit big. Andrews Pete is a maybe. Kakaha's been injured.
Right.
Stephon Anthony, a really good first year, sat the bench year two. Damian Swan, hurt. P.J. Williams, hurt. Marcus Murphy, big disappointment. You know who's been the best player in that draft class? Tyler Davison.
Yes.
And look where they got him.
Steady.
And so, again, how can people write or say 2015 was a great draft class? It's an incomplete draft class. 2016, though, is a totally different story. Sheldon Rankin shows you he's a playmaker up front. Michael Thomas, star in the making here. I think Von Bell's got a chance to be a really good player in the NFL. David Onyemata, I think, is going to be a really good player down the line. And certainly we saw with Daniel Lasco.
Right.
He's a good, kind of serviceable guy as a number 2 back, really can help you out tremendously on special teams. And then you throw in Will Lutz as the kicker. That's a good draft.
Yes.
Now, they've done more in that one draft than they did in the other probably 4 or 5 combined on hit-on players. So it goes to show you, Eric, where this goes. They have not done a good job in the draft. And it is where you have to succeed. You can't spend all your money on free agency because you're going to lose out.
Yes.
And they haven't done a real good job in free agency either.
Mike, what changed? They had such a dearth of bad drafts over and over again. There've been some changes within the scouting department, a little bit of change in the player personnel positions when it comes, especially with Ireland coming in. What changed there, or was it just they got lucky this year and just happened to hit on players that came in and played well for them?
I think every year is a little different scenario of how you look at it. Yeah, luck is always involved, but I think fit is the right term. Before, they were picking players that really weren't fit. Now, you know what they changed from when you saw them after they won the Super Bowl was more of a factor of looking at athletes, a certain height, a certain weight, a certain speed, certain vertical jump. And it was a metrics thing. They only hit on one guy, Jimmy Graham.
Right.
Everybody else was a major disappointment. Has this team maybe turned toward a little bit, you know what, all that's great and fine, but we got to find the right fit player and find a football player. Jim Finks told me this years ago. Mike, with all this that we put on the table, ask yourself the big question. Can he play football? And if he's on another team, can he beat me? That's the question we should be asking. And a lot of times it's, he looks great in the individual workouts. And we do know with this coach, he does have the chalk in his hand. with those early picks.
Yes.
He has a major say on who some of those early round draft choices are.
Is that a strength or weakness for this team?
It was a strength early on. It's been a weakness.
But then why the change, Mike? I mean, look, early it looked good. Since the Super Bowl, pretty much down. And, I mean, he didn't forget, how to
But also,
evaluate
you got to have
players.
the feeder system.
Right.
You got, and too, a lot of times you get distracted with certain things. And a lot of teams, they do certain things, but also it's not only professional, personal, everything else. When you win a Super Bowl, your life changes that day forever. And so maybe the focus wasn't completely there like it was before. And we've seen a totally different Sean Payton since. Now, did he forget how to coach? He's still the same coach. It's all about players. Buddy Ryan told me this years ago at the Senior Bowl. He said, Mike, I'm a damn good coach, but I'm an even better coach when I got better players.
Yeah.
And I think in the NFL, it's all about accumulating as many good players as you can find, but that fit, which you do best offensively and defensively. The big problem, Eric, has been they haven't figured out what they want to do defensively. Right. This has been a team that has been jumbled across the board, from Greg Williams to Spagnuolo to Ryan, now to Dennis Allen, in a very short period of time.
Yes.
All those guys run different systems. And I say this every year. In every draft class, 5 or 6 guys, no matter where they play, they'd be the same production. Everybody else is fit.
Speaking of fit, talk about this past free agent class, what they brought in.
Well, with Craig Robertson, you're speaking? I thought
Nick Fairley, Robinson.
I thought Craig did a tremendous job. Now, late in the season, he's playing one-armed. You watch the tape on that.
Yes.
He can't make a tackle because, he's basically playing one-armed. I thought he was the best free agent pickup they had for his production, for what you paid for him, which wasn't a tremendous amount, and what he brought to the table. Nick Fairley is what it is, and he's the biggest decision this offseason. I thought he had a really strong 2016 season for the Saints. Are you willing to pay him a lot of money for a guy that's been a mercurial player? If it's been in Detroit, if it's been with the Rams, he's rode the ultimate roller coaster football career. Then he comes here and he was a playmaker. He was a force, especially as a pass rusher. Now, at times, he gets wiped out on running plays, but you understand his deal was to get up the field, rush the quarterback. Are you willing to pay him a lot of money?
Mike, if you had put the GM hat on, would you be willing to do it? Would you take a chance, knowing his background, knowing that he's got to be motivated? They want to talk about a couple hours away from Mobile, the family's there. All that is fine. At the end of the day, money motivates a lot of these guys. Championship motivates them in some cases. We don't know what Fairley's going to do once he gets paid.
Other thing, too, is maturity. Some guy, you meet up with people at 16, 17 years old. They're as mature as people that you meet in your 30s. And you meet up with 25 and 30-year-old guys that they act like they're 15 years old. So the maturity level with him, I think, has gotten better. What you bring up is, tell me the number I would have to get to. Because here's the issue. If you don't pay it with the Saints, somebody else will. You're not Donald Trump trying to win the Electoral College.
Right.
You only looking for one team to pay you what you wanted at that point. And he's going to get it. If it's not in New Orleans, it'll be somewhere else. And it's the biggest decision from inside the house, so to speak, this offseason you'll have to make. Yeah, you got over $20 million, but you know what? What I saw, there's 22 other teams in the NFL with more money than you, and you have to have money for your draft choices. You have to have money to re-sign Nick Fairley. What are you going to do with Kenny Vaccaro?
Right.
That's another guy that you're going to have to go long-term with. I thought he had his best season also.
I'd agree.
But from a free agency standpoint, really the hits were on defense. It wasn't on offense.
Right.
Kobe Fleener, major disappointment for what he did. And thank goodness for whatever the friction was between the Saints and Jari Evans, he decided to come back. He had, I think, a really good season for him at his age. Now, does he want to play again, and does he want to play for that money? Because, once you get a certain age and you've made a certain amount of money, do you want to pay for less?
Right.
That's going to be the big story this offseason, rebuilding the offensive line. And it was funny, Dan Rauscher, on our radio show with Bobby and I, he spoke point blank that he has told Andrus Peat, give this a couple weeks, think about it. What do you want to play? Guard or tackle, left or right? What if he says left tackle?
Yeah, what if he says left tackle?
Are you going to be willing to move Tehran to the right?
Do you think that they would be willing to do that?
I think that would be part of the conversation. If I'm looking to get the best 5 on the field, my thing is he can't play on the right side. We've seen that. He's a much better left side player. So he's either going to play left guard or left tackle.
Right.
Eric, I mean, that's not the right side to me is not even in the equation here. It's going to be on the left side. I'm interested to see what he says and then what becomes the reaction of people inside the Saints building.
I'm interested to see how Teron Armstead would handle that, to asking him to move to another position. Left tackles, a lot of that is also ego as well.
Exactly. So my thing is, I think Andrews plays left guard next year with Teron on the left tackle spot. And you're secure with Unger. You try to get Jari Evans back for another year, but you have to rebuild at right guard and right tackle. Still up in question on what you want to do with Zach Strief at right tackle.
Do you do that this year? Do you bring in those heir apparents for the right tackle and right guard position? Because you have the unknown of, you never know when Father Time's going to come calling for both of these players. They were injury-free this year.
That's right. And so when that bell rings, you don't lose it like this.
Right.
You lose it straight down. When a player gets that age, it's not a gradual wear down. It's dramatic. And that was a reason why Seahawks cut him. Now, thank goodness they did.
Yes.
Man, watching their offensive line, you mean to tell me he couldn't start for them?
Please.
Something wasn't right there. That tells me Tom Cable, he apparently didn't know what to do with Jari Evans because he is a better guard than anybody he's got on Seattle's football team.
I would agree with that. Talk about the pro personnel directors, that staff there, what they were able to do in season in terms of bringing players in to fill holes.
Listen, when you get devastated at cornerback, and that's the best term to use, no Keenan Lewis, then Damian, and even before the season, Kyle Wilson goes out. And PJ gets the injury. To bring in 2 comparable guys in Sterling Moore and B.W. Webb, listen, that was quite an accomplishment to have those guys. Now, they're more nickel, dime type cover cornerbacks than starters, but that's what you had. There's not a guy on the street with his hand up in the air. Hey, I'm a starting cornerback. Come bring me in.
Right.
Now, the biggest surprise is Ken Crawley. I watched him at Colorado. He got beat like a drum on a regular basis. Athletic, big, tall guy. I thought he played much better than anybody could have imagined. Devontae Harris had his moments, but he's on the smallish side. You can see the deficiencies there. But Ken Crawley was the big pickup for them. And, I like a big cornerback. Now, physically, he's got to get stronger. You saw on a couple of occasions, especially in New York, he's fighting for the ball, and that's where the strength of ripping the ball away from a wide receiver came into play. He wasn't able to do it. They came up with the catch. So, overall, what you lack is a starter opposite Delvin, who when he's healthy, and he wasn't healthy this year, when he's healthy, he is a really, really good cornerback. You need another one on the other side.
Some of the other needs that you feel like they're going to have to get in either free agency or in the draft.
Man, they need a pass rusher in the worst way. And they're the hardest things to find. And I spoke to Ed Ogeron about this. Quarterback and pass rushers, they don't have them anymore. They're really difficult to find at the collegiate level, real difficult to find at the pro level. Bobby and I talk about this all the time. When he was playing, there were probably 20 or more really good pass rushers. Today, 10, maybe 11. Just cut in half. A lot of those 6'4", 6'5" guys in high school playing on offense. They playing receiver and tight end. They're not playing on defense anymore. So certainly they need a guy opposite Cam Jordan on the other side to put pressure on the quarterback. What they're going to do at linebacker is the biggest intrigue. Do you move Stephon Anthony back to the middle? That's where he's most comfortable. Put him back in the middle, and then you could have Robertson and Ellerbe. And, listen, with Ellerbe, he's the most talented guy they have. Just can't keep him healthy for any length of time. And Craig can play all across the board. It's interesting how they're going to handle the linebacker spot. More than anything, but it's so much on defense. I think on offense, a guard and a tackle, you know that you're going to have to rebuild your right side. But, you could play that. And I see them also doing something, bringing in another running back.
Okay.
I think that'll happen either somewhere in the draft or in free agency. They will look to bring in another running back just because history tells you this team has sort of been beat up in the past at the running back position. Fortunately, this year, Mark Ingram stayed healthy for the most part.
Right.
Tim Hightower, you love to watch him play. This is This is the NFL to watch what he can do out
sure.
on the football field. But can those guys stay healthy another season?
Mike, when you look at the linebacker position, and particularly Stephon Anthony, what do you think happened there? I mean, he goes from the leading tackler on the team the year before. Obviously, he was lost at times in terms of calling the signals. Was it the change in coordinators? Is it a guy, can he get his confidence back? Can he be the 100-plus tackle guy again for the Saints?
Moving back to the middle, he's great in the forward position. Where he struggled, and I did a couple of shows with him, he told me, I'm still adjusting to the NFL on how quickly the tight ends and the running backs get on top of me. You know, he didn't see that at Clemson. Now, that's where he struggled. But the convoluted logic to move him over to the strong side made no sense when it started, and it makes no sense today. When he played middle linebacker against the Cardinals, he struggled a little bit early, but I thought he finished up really well in that football game. And then he gets hurt again. My thing is moving back to the middle, and then you maneuver the other pieces. You thought enough of him to spend a first-round pick. You're going to cut him loose after 2 years? And after he puts together a 100-plus tackle season?
Somebody will pick him up in an instant.
Exactly. And so to me, that was overthinking a position. Oh, we're going to have James Laurinaitis take over and be the leader. And all that made a lot of sense other than the fact that, you know what? He hit the football wall.
Yes.
He couldn't play anymore. So what do you do now? Now you've got to move Robertson over to the middle because you've spent all this time working Stephon on the strong side, and he never got it. We see in some games, times he was supposed to drop back in coverage, he would blitz, and vice versa. He was confused there. Put him back in the middle. That's where he belongs at. But you're going to have to make a choice because at 11, what happens if Reuben Foster from Alabama's on the board? What do you do then? And so you run through those scenarios quite often between now and come draft
What
time.
do you do then? Because he's hard to pass up.
He wouldn't get to 12 with me.
Right.
But again, your biggest need is pass rusher. So what happens if you have Solomon Thomas from Stanford and Reuben on the board? You know, and so if you go by the grades and that sort of thing, I think Reuben would trump it, but your biggest need is that defensive end.
Let's get to the draft and talk about what you think is the strength of this year's draft.
Oh, cornerback. A lot of them, and I think you'll see probably 4 or 5 in round 1, and then probably another 6 to 7 in the next picks from 33 to 65. There's going to be a ton of cornerbacks in this draft class. Wide receivers too. Thickness, not so much in round 1, but 2 through round 4.
Right.
There's a lot of guys there. Running back. I don't remember another year in quite some time that you have 3 solid first-round pick running backs with Leonard, with Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
3 guys going in round 1. You're lucky to sometimes get 2. Now you might have 3 going round 1, and potentially the fact you could have 2 go in the top 10 picks.
Yes.
The door's been open first by Todd Gurley and then what Zeke did this year with the Cowboys. That some teams say, I don't want to spend a high-round pick. And look what Elliott did to that football team. People say, well, anybody could run behind that line. Or anybody could have played quarterback. I know I saw anybody the year before, and that's why they picked 4th in the draft. Anybody couldn't get the job done.
Right. What about pass rusher? How deep is that in the draft?
Pretty quick is going to be off the board. Now, I think there's a pretty good group of them, but they come off the board real quickly. I think you'll probably see 6 defensive end / hybrid outside linebacker pass rushers go in the top 25.
Right.
So if you don't get one early, guess what? Your chances of getting one ain't real good late.
Is this a defensive draft or an offensive draft in your mind?
More defensive. It's real shallow at the tackle position, fairly solid at guard, okay at the center spot. Never enough quarterbacks.
Right.
Tight ends, got a couple early that'll go, but then there's a pretty good drop-off. Real strong at receiver, running back.
You mentioned tight end. I want to throw this out there. It hasn't happened. A lot of rumors out there. Jimmy Graham may be released. They want to get rid of the contract. He hasn't been a good fit in Seattle. If he's released, I mean, if you're the Saints, do you take a look at him again? Do you want to bring him back? Has that bridge been burned? Are you too invested in Coby Fleener? What do you think happens there?
Would the question be, would Jimmy want to come back? If I'm Jimmy Graham, you know where I look? Atlanta. Nobody's taking the place of Tony Gonzalez. Yeah, they got Julio Jones. I'll never see double coverage again. And I know one thing with Matt Ryan, he wants to feed the football to the tight end. Look who he would have to beat out for the number one spot there. So I think there would be a lot of teams interested in Jimmy Graham if that would happen. Now, if I'm Seattle, I might throw that out there to see who would call and say, let me maybe make a deal with you for Jimmy to secure the fact that I would get him. I'm willing to take that contract off your hands. So one thing with John Snyder, he does a pretty good job of pea and shelling things across the board. And he knew who to go to spread that rumor around.
What about free agency? What's the strength there in your mind?
I think more on defense than on offense. A couple of pretty good pass rushers, strong, I think, at the cornerback position. And I think that's where the Saints are going to go. If you look at Sean, he has tipped his hand a little bit. When Josh Norman got released by Carolina, the Saints made a big play for him last May. Then come trade deadline, they tried to get Joe Hayden from Cleveland. For whatever reason, that didn't work out. So that's telling me I want to go after a veteran cornerback to come in to slide him right opposite Delvin Breaux. And I think that's the first hit for the Saints in free agency is that cornerback.
You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports each and every Thursday night right here on WLAE at 6 p.m. with our live broadcast. We have a rebroadcast at 10 o'clock here on WLAE every Friday night, and you can catch us statewide on Pelican Sports Television, 9 p.m. every Friday night. Mike Detillier is our guest. We'll take a quick break. We'll come right back. We'll talk a little LSU football, and then we'll open up the phone lines a little bit later on. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Don't go anywhere.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Amco Fence, locally owned and operated since 1976. Fully licensed and insured and a member of the BBB, Amco serves both residential and commercial customers. If you're looking to repair, replace, or install a fence for security or aesthetic reasons, Amco Fence supplies wooden, metal, chain link, vinyl, and ornamental or automatic gates. Amco aims to satisfy your fencing needs. Amco Fence, 504-468-9559 or amcofencecompany.com.
TikTok Cafe, located on Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie, is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our menu offers breakfast dishes like our Western omelet made from scratch biscuits, grits, egg sunny side up, and lunch specials like our homemade cheeseburgers with a side of golden brown fries. Don't forget about our weekday lunch special and that every Tuesday is steak night. TikTok Cafe, open 24/7 at Causeway South at the I-10 in Metairie.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. Mike Detillier is with us. Mike, I normally ask you in the beginning of the show some of the things you're involved in. You're also involved with Thibodeau Regional.
Yeah, absolutely. They just built a new $73 million wellness sports medicine center there. Gorgeous. One of a kind in the South. Just unbelievable. And it's paid for.
There you go.
This has been the idea of Greg Stock for many, many years to build this here. And finally came through in October. And if you're passing in Thibodeau, it is the skyline. That wasn't there. Archie Manning and I, we're part of the group that do some PR for him. And, you know, he remembers training in at Nichols where the mosquitoes were almost taking him away.
Right.
And so it's unbelievable facilities there that they'll do. And this is the hope that one day that we can keep a lot of these Louisiana athletes in here in the Thibodeau area to train instead of going to Florida or to California or Colorado, wherever they train at, and to keep them here. And also, they do a great job also with the high school, junior high school ranks and getting those young men healthy and keeping them healthy.
Well, congratulations on
you.
that. Mike, guy you know pretty well, Coach Ed Ogeron. He gets the job at LSU. Talk a little bit about him getting the job. First of all, were you surprised? And then what he's done since he's taken over this position.
I wasn't surprised he got it. I was shocked. You know, listen, Joe Oliva, I mean, how he still has a job at LSU is a shock to me. Come on. He's made every misstep in the world, and there was no doubt in my mind he was looking elsewhere.
Right.
He can say what he wants on the podium about I had my man all that time. he was looking around. You know, he went to Florida State and tried to get Jimbo Fisher, and Jimbo turned him down. He went to Houston and tried to get Tom Herman, and once Texas opened up, man, Tom was headed that direction. So I'm thrilled for Ed that he got the job. I think he's made what happens with a lot of first-year coaches. You lose the ties from a commitment standpoint, and he lost quite a number of those guys. Because, you know, you have that relationship with Les Miles. You have that relationship with a lot of the assistant coaches. Now that's broken up a little bit now, and you had stability. More stability than other than Alabama. You can say they had as much stability as anybody in the Southeast Conference. That was broken. I knew year one would be difficult for Ed, recruiting-wise, and I knew he would lose some guys just because without Les, and you know, you say, man, what's going on there? And other teams use that. Oh man, look what happened here, and they'll always throw Ed's record. Look what he did at Ole Miss. You know, look what happened there. So he's got to build that up upon the fact that he finished strong, 6-2, did a great job down the stretch, and in the 2 losses of what he did to get his team mentally ready to come back off of 2 devastating losses. You're talking about they had Alabama 0-0 in the 4th quarter. They had Florida on the ropes. They just couldn't put them away, and then a mental mistake late in the game cost them. But he got his team ready the next week, and they won, and got his team ready after Florida to beat Texas A&M. And so we'll see how the staff rolls out. He did a great – I thought Matt Canada, I think, is a tremendous hire for him. I talked to Jacoby Brissett last year in the draft process. He told me, I just wanted to go somewhere where they wanted me as much as I wanted them. I go to North Carolina State. Matt's there. And he said, Matt, in his own mind, he knows what to do, and he's got a certain philosophy, but he adjusts everything to the players on the team. That's all I needed to hear. You look at Nathan Peterman. This was a guy that was a backup quarterback at Tennessee to Joshua Dobbs. He goes to Pitt. In 1 year, Matt Canada's got that guy to be the #1 senior quarterback prospect in the nation for the draft. Now, again, we're not talking about Deshaun Watson, Trubisky, all those guys are juniors, but the senior guy. So look what he's done, almost back-to-back years to transform Brissett and Peterman. Man, I want him to do that at LSU.
Absolutely.
For what he's done. So, and keeping Dave Aranda certainly was a big get for him also because I don't know that Dave wants to be a college head coach, but I think one day he's got the pros locked on that, on his radar, that he would love to be a coordinator there. Recruiting, I'll just tell you the story Pete Carroll told me, and he was point blank about it. He said, listen, I've been around a long time. Ed Orgeron is the best cleanup guy and closer in the game. He said, California recruiting is different than the South, Northeast, Midwest. A lot of those guys wait late in the process before making up their mind where they're going to go. He said, you know what? Before we got this started, Reggie Bush was headed to Washington. It was Ed Orgeron that got him to go to USC. Matt Leinart was headed elsewhere. He was gone. Arizona State, he was headed out. It was Ed Orgeron that got him to go to USC. Now just think about those teams without those two guys. And they were the building blocks for everything else. And in a time frame of 4 years as the recruiting coordinator, he had 34 NFL draft choices, 11 first-round picks, 6 second-round picks. Tell me that's not pretty good?
Yeah, it's very, very good.
That's impressive on there. And so I'm interested to see, can he close again?
Yes.
Can he be Mariano late and close this out with LSU? He's in with a lot of big-time players late. Can he close it out and get the big defensive tackle in Wilson, or Shelvin from up north in Louisiana, or Willie Gay from Mississippi? If he can do that, then he's earned that reputation of being a pretty good closer.
Yes. Tiger fans wondering, is he going to be the same coach we saw as an interim? Will he learn the lessons of Ole Miss about micromanaging? You've got a great relationship with him. What do you think happens?
He learned his lesson. And he was never a micromanager at USC when he took over there. In a worse spot than LSU. He had more talent at LSU than he had at USC and did a great job there. I think, listen, I hate to say this, but I'm the same way. You grow up on the bayou, you think you can do something better than anybody else, and you got it in your head. And he didn't want to coach the defensive line. He wanted to coach the running backs, the quarterbacks, the defensive backs. No, you got to trust other people can do their jobs and let them do it. The other thing, too, is you can't jump a quarterback like you do a defensive and offensive lineman. He's not going to take that well.
Right.
And that was a couple times that we saw in the Alabama game, him get up right in the face of Danny Etling. But you know what impressed me? Citrus Bowl. Danny Etling throws that interception late, and it was the glare. He didn't say anything, but Etling just took the look, and Ed gave him the glare, and he walked away. He understood he didn't have to talk to him and get in his face and scream at him. Just the look did it. And so I think he's learned a lot about that. But listen, college football is all about two things: acquiring talent in the recruiting part, assistant coaches.
Yes.
Why does Nick Saban, he is a cut above as a coach, but he's winning with 5-star recruits and 5-star assistant coaches.
Yes.
That's the difference. Every year you lose top assistant coaches. It's the 1B. A lot of people don't bring it up, but having those quality assistant coaches that can do two things: recruit and develop players. It's rare in this business. That's why when you think about college football, tell me the elite coaches other than Saban. Urban Meyer, Jim Harbaugh hasn't won anything at Michigan, but you would put him certainly in that zip code. Name me the next one. You start thinking about it, you can say Bob Stoops. Bob's had some rocky roads. Now, he may turn the corner in 2017 with what he's got with Baker Mayfield, but still, when you look at it, that's just a handful of guys. There's a big difference between Saban, and certainly you got to put Dabo Swinney in that category for what he's done. But you look at the NFL, is there a bigger gap between the top coach, and we all know who he is, and the second guy than ever before? It's all about talent and developing that talent.
Do you anticipate more changes on the coaching staff after recruiting is over?
I would think, well, one, they need to get a special teams coach.
I'm going to ask you about that next.
And so I think that'll happen. And I wouldn't be surprised you have one more change somewhere in the lineup, and it wouldn't be surprised it's on the offensive side.
There was some talk about Bobby April coming in consulting, maybe being the special teams coach. Some felt that maybe he had retired and just really didn't want to go with the grind. What do you hear, and what do you think is going to happen there?
I talked to Bobby, and in fact, he actually did a TV show and a radio show with me. So his deal with me was, Mike, I want to coach.
He wants to coach.
I want to coach, but only as a consultant.
Okay.
I don't want to recruit. I've spent a lot of time away from my family. I love to coach, that coaching part, but recruiting is 24/7. It's 52 weeks out of the year. It's constant. And he said, I don't want to go through that grind. But he actually had worked with LSU long before it was revealed. He had worked with them for 4 or 5 weeks before Coach O had called him, come in, kind of help out. And I think whoever's the next special teams coach, the guy standing alongside of him, Bobby April, will stay as a consultant.
866-3200 is the phone number if you'd like to get involved in tonight's show. Mike, what about LSU players going into the draft? Talk a bit about those guys.
It's a pretty big group, and you could have potentially 3 first-round picks here. I think Fournette's a top 10 pick. It wouldn't surprise me Jamal Adams become a top 10 pick. He's a top 15 at least. And this is an unusual draft that you could see 3 safeties go in the top 15. Now, we saw that in 1981. Ronnie Lott, Kenny Easley, Dennis Smith all went top 15. You could easily see Jamal, Malik Hooker from Ohio State, Jabril Peppers from Michigan. Bang. Unusual, but again, that's an important spot now, that safety spot, because they're also playing a little bit of outside linebacker. So those 2 guys, top 15 picks. Trey, I think, would be a late first-round pick, who I thought had a great 9 games, and then I think had an injury that they didn't want to tell you about, and he was not the same player late. And so I think he ends up being a late first-round pick. Ethan Posick, I think, will go in the 2nd round. Malachi Dupree, I think, will probably more of a 3rd round, along with Davin Godchaux. And then, you got other guys down the road with a Josh Butte, who I think will be a late-round pick. Colin Jeter, who I really like as a tight end. He's not just a blocker. He can also catch the football real well. And Dwayne Thomas. Listen, I don't think there was a more improved player defensively than Dwayne. And he can play all the positions, play the nickel, play on special teams. And I love the way he plays. He's got an attitude with him, and he can back it up.
What about Kendall Beckwith?
Kendall's a guy that is a question mark because of the knee.
Injury?
I would have given him an early 3rd-round pick grade. Just depends on how quickly he can come back from that knee injury. I still think he goes in that middle 3rd to early 4th round. Today, knee surgeries are not what it was even 5 years ago. So it's all about the rehab, not about the surgery.
What kind of back do you think Leonard Fournette's going to be in the pros?
It just depends on what type of team he's with. I think that what raises the sweat up on most Saints fans is, look who picks 8th, Carolina.
Right.
With an aging back. You don't think that they've got their eyes pegged on him, on what he could do on that football team? And then the Saints would have to play him twice a year, like they've had to play a lot of other former LSU players. He's a big back that runs with power and speed, and he's must-watch TV. In our lifetime, there's only been 3 LSU athletes that were must-watch TV. Pete Maravich, when we were kids.
Yes.
Shaq, when he was playing at LSU.
Right.
Leonard Fournette. He was much-watched TV.
Yes.
For what he did. You can't tell me another LSU guy that people say, man, I want to watch LSU for that guy. No, it was Leonard. It was Leonard. And he tilted the field. When he was healthy, you saw what he could do. But, sometimes it's the fit that goes with it,
No, I agree with that.
You see, look at Todd Gurley. Great rookie season. And then behind one of the worst offensive lines in pro football, he got his clock clean this year. So it does have a lot to say on where you end up. But if he ends up in Carolina, all I can tell you, Eric, we're going to be talking about that a long time.
Yes, I agree with that. 866-3200. Our guest tonight, Mike Detillier. Let's head down to the Bayou.
And Greg, I know where home was at.
I know you know where home was at. Hey, Greg, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys, got 2 questions for you. One is, what do we do with Kakaha? And number 2, I want Mike's take on the hiring procedures of all these coaches that Sean Payton let go. Is he going to be so much involved in it, or is he just going to be hands-off? And I just want to hear you take things.
Okay, Greg, I think on Kakaha, he's a situational player. He's a pass rusher, and that's his strength. If I see a 6-foot, 245-pound defensive end, guess what? I'm going to run the ball right at you. So I think he's a good situational player now if he can stay healthy.
Yes.
And he's part of the rotation up front as a pass rusher. Sean Payton, there's nobody that's going to have more of a say on assistant coaches than Sean. He is got the chalk in his hand. When that decision gets made, it won't be Mickey Loomis. It won't be Dennis Lauscher. It'll be Sean Payton that makes that choice on that assistant coach. So he's got all the say as far as assistant coaches are concerned.
Michael is in Houma. Michael, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Michael.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Mike Detillier. I'm very high up on running back by the name of Elijah McGuire. And I think he'll be a good fit for the Saints because he can run between the tackles. He can run outside. He has good speed. He's a real good kick returner. And for lack of a better expression, he's kind of like the poor man's Reggie Bush. He could do everything that Reggie Bush used to do, plus run between the tackles. And another thing I'd like to comment on, the next Saints quarterback that they would get, I think would have to be a guy that could get outside the pocket, could move around a little bit. And the person that I'm high on is Patrick Mahomes. He played against LSU, and he gave LSU defense a stick. He would always get him outside. LSU had some real athletic players, and they had problems with him. And he threw for a lot of yards this year, too.
Yes.
He's an impressive football player, Mike.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call. Listen, if you're going to pick a quarterback in round 2, if you're the Saints, it's Patrick Mahomes. He fits what you really want to do.
Yes.
But more importantly than throwing off the edge, he's a good pocket passer. Accuracy from the pocket. Man, listen, that stuff they do in college, that don't equate to the NFL. You got to be able to throw accurately from the pocket.
Yes.
Patrick can do it. He's a great athlete. I think he's one of the guys that, Lee Steinberg represents him, so Lee and I have had to talk about him. And basically, had he come back, he would have been a first-round pick.
Yes.
But he wanted to go to the pros. I think he ends up being a top 15 pick in round 2. Man, if I'm the Saints and I'm thinking about quarterback, I'm not going to use a first-round pick on one. If I'm going to use a second-round pick, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's a heck of a player. Elijah McGuire, I've seen him for a long time. He went to Vanderbilt Catholic in Houma. He was a quarterback there. Terrific all-purpose back. And what Mike brings up is right. I wrote that he's Louisiana's version of Reggie Bush. He can hit the edge. He can run between the tackles. He's playing at the East-West Shrine game this weekend. Terrific receiver, can do you a little bit of help in the return game. I think he ends up probably being a middle round pick, probably in round 4, but he's talented, motivated, and I think he'd be a great fit for the Saints. What Mike brings up is correct. He could fill that role that has never been filled since Darren Sproles left.
Right.
Never been. He could fit that role extremely well. He's a terrific receiver, hometown kid, fought adversity to get to where he's at. And young man's got a lot to prove, but he has done a fantastic job. I'd love to see him in the black and gold.
And accuracy is huge for the Saints
offense.
offense.
Oh, my goodness. Because in that offense, you're not rolling people out constantly. Now, sometimes you have to take off because of the pressure, but the NFL is all about throwing the football accurately from the pocket. Look at the 4 guys that are left. Brady, pocket passer. Roethlisberger, pocket passer. Matt Ryan, pocket passer. Now, Aaron Rodgers is a pocket passer, but he's the best improvisational quarterback in the NFL. He's got that ability that when people get around him, he can move and make the throw. Patrick Mahomes, and I don't want to compare him, but he can throw the football very well from the pocket and also on the move. And the pressure would not be for Pat to play this year. He would have a little bit of developmental time. And only thing I know is if you in a battle with Drew Brees, you better bring them 2 buckets of water because you're in for a long time trying to beat that cat out.
There you go. Wallace is in New Orleans. Wallace, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Wallace.
Hey, Wallace.
Yeah, how y'all doing? I'd like to ask y'all, who the best player right now coming out of LSU will be good for the Saints they need to pick this year? Thank y'all.
Man, I would love Jamal Adams.
Okay.
Just because I know he tilts the field as a player. I mean, I know you say, well, you got Kenny Vaccaro. Man, do you think Jarvis Bird's coming back this year with that contract? There's no way that he's coming back with that. Man, listen, Jamal he can do anything out on that football field. Now, is he a great cover guy? I don't know about great, but he's good, and he's a ball hawk. Put him up on that line of scrimmage. Great angles of pursuit. He can run. You saw the Louisville running back. He had the edge, and Jamal cut him off. Bow. And he's a leader. I know Coach O has talked to me so many times about, you know what? Leaders are born. I didn't have to tell him to be a leader. He was a leader on my football team. He could have easily said, man, Les Miles is going. I'll just play this season out. It's all over with. No. You saw Jamal Adams step his game up once Coach O took over. He didn't have to do that. He took that responsibility himself. He would be the one guy if you said, okay, I need help tomorrow. Yeah, Leonard Fournette. But the Saints are not a run-oriented team to begin with. Man, give me a defensive guy. Give me Jamal.
Jeffrey is on the West Bank. Hey, Jeffrey, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. How you doing?
Hey, good evening, fellas.
Good evening, Jeffrey.
I'd like to ask your opinion about certain organizations that like to build through the draft, or certain organizations that like to build through free agency. And it seems to me that the Saints like to build more through free agency, and the draft is just something that they just go through the motions. I mean, and another thing, I want to know, what is the Saints pick? Where do Saints fall in the first round?
Right.
Okay,
Thank
Jeff. They pick 11th in round 1. The Saints want to build through the draft.
They just haven't been able to do it.
Haven't been able to do it. Right. I mean, the problem is, you know, you would love to get that guy because you've got him at a cheap price for a long time. It's the NFL's version of welfare. You got these guys at a real low price. It's minimum wage for those guys. Now, free agency costs you a lot more money. No matter who you're bringing in, he wants that cash. So they've had to go to free agency because it was the alternative. They had no other choice with it. Green Bay does it better than anybody. I don't think anybody does the draft and building teams through that almost exclusively better than what the Packers have. And I give Mike McCarthy a lot of credit.
Sure.
Most people couldn't name you 5 guys defensively for the Packers.
Right.
But, and look at the receivers they have now. Without Jordy Nelson and Devontae, they got, you know, a rookie kid from Illinois coming into play. Jared Cook, he was cut loose by the Rams. And look what he's done on this football team. It is about drafting well. That's the hallmark to every football team in the NFL. The Saints just haven't done it well, other than I think 2016 was a signature draft for them. I really think it was.
And much needed.
And really, really needed. They need another 2016 draft in 2017.
You all got that so right. Let's go to Kenner and Ed. Ed, welcome to Inside New Orleans Sports. Hey, Ed.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for calling.
I wanted to ask a question. Mike, do you think it's best for us to maybe drop down and to the second round and get another draft pick? And I heard that Drew Brees tweeted out that Jimmy Graham was here. And I heard y'all make that remark a while ago, but he tweeted out that he was down there. And I wanted to make a comment about the linebacker that from the USFL. What do you think about that guy coming in? I'll hang up and listen. Thank you.
Canadian linebacker, he's undersized, but man, he was a really good player in the Canadian Football League. He's a Mike guy, but he can run the field well. Again, it's a big jump now from the Canadian Football League to the NFL. We saw Delvin do it.
Yes.
Did a great job. We'll have a better gauge at it once we see him in some of the OTAs and all. One thing he is, all his coaches say the same thing. Very, very smart, instinctive to the football, and he can play in reverse. Eric, these guys today coming out, they can't cover.
Yes.
So that's why you see more teams throwing the football to the tight ends and the running backs.
Right.
You know what? If I know you can't cover, I'm throwing the football
day
right
long.
at you. As far as Jimmy Graham's concerned, that's a what if, because Seattle still has his rights.
Yes.
They still own him, so to speak. So they can do what they want. I think what Snyder's doing here is he's leaked it out to a couple of news agencies about, hey, we might think about cutting Jimmy. He ain't cutting Jimmy Graham. He's going to try to trade him. Now, if I'm John Snyder, I try to trade him out of the NFC.
Sure.
Because if I cut him loose, he could end up with a division rival. I'm trading him to an AFC team if I'm trying to trade him. I brought up Atlanta because if he was technically a free agent, couldn't you think of a better spot for him where he could walk in? And this is a team with the two running backs and Julio and Matt. And he might say, you know what, this is my way of sticking it to the Saints.
Right. Plus an offense very similar.
Very similar.
Who do you like in the Final Four?
I hate to say it, but I like Atlanta.
Do you?
I just think they're a little better football team than Green Bay. I wrote this a month back. The baddest man, and I think the most dangerous man in the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers. But he don't play defense.
Right.
And I think Atlanta ends up in a high-scoring game, and they win it. Man, my heart tells me Pittsburgh, but my head tells me New England. And unprecedented, and if you're watching or listening or whatever, you will never live long enough to see a head coach, quarterback combination, get to more Super. They've getting 6. They have the potential to get to 7. You will never live long enough to see that ever happen again in your lifetime. And that's remarkable. I don't care if you're 3 years old and watching.
Right.
That's not going to happen in your lifetime to see that occur. It's amazing, just amazing what Bill Belichick has done in the post-free agency world. Best pro coach, I think, ever.
Yeah.
Because Lombardi and Landry and all those, they didn't have to deal with free agency. They didn't have to deal with the money issues that there are today, and he's made it work.
Yep, no doubt about it. Mike, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Always appreciate it.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Mike Detillier, our guest tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there's a rebroadcast of this program each and every Friday night right here on WLAE-TV. Also on Friday night at 9 p.m. on Pelican Sports Television. You can catch us 10 o'clock right here on WLAE. Also, remember, you catch me on the radio, 9:90 a.m. WGSO. That's 11 a.m. until 1 p.m. That's weekdays. You catch us on the TuneIn Radio app. You can also download the podcast or listen live at ericasher.com. You can catch all the previous episodes of Inside New Orleans Sports at ericasher.com as well. Again, special thanks to Mike Detillier. Great hour tonight. Also to the WLAE production staff, including Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Kenny Juno, Naila Jones, Philip Williamson, and my director, William Hill. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Have a great week.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is the first place award winner of the 2015 New Orleans Press Club's Excellence in Journalism Award for the category of Best TV Sports Show.